thanks for coming. Wow, we've already made it more than halfway through this simulation of 2026. Congratulations. You guys are really doing well. It seems like you really understand the assignment. And so we were able to I was really worried about the test at the end of chapter 3, the March chapter. But wow, we passed that with flying colors and you got us leveled up. And so that's why we're here now. So here we are in chapter 7, the July chapter called The False Hope. And then the next chapter, chapter 8, being the alternate system build. So, so by now, probably all of your historic memories are completely erased. And back in March, there may have been some residual memories. The stories that you heard about the folks, the traumatic experience of having to, form a flank to be able to get people to the polls past armed guards and those kind of things. But even that memory, you probably don't have at this point. But and when we get to the November chapter, there's going to be a big test. I mean, right at the beginning of that chapter, there's going to be this huge test. It's kind of like the final, of the course. And but yeah, you guys are some of the best players I've seen, and I really mean that. Like you guys, like other iterations of the simulation of 2026, the arrest group swells in April, and that did not happen in this iteration. I have noticed, so I do have to warn you though, that in other iterations of the simulation of 2026, when that arrest group doesn't swell in April and earlier in the simulation, it does occur later, and that's likely going to start happening in the next chapter, which is why we need to get those alternate systems built before the November chapter. If we don't have those alternate systems built, we're not going to be able to pass the final in November. Now, the biggest alternate system that we have to build is the IRL network, okay? Because here in the oligarchic network, we have to use Newspeak just to even talk to each other. We have to use things like unalive and pew-pews and stuff like that, right? So in order to restore our free speech rights within the simulation, we have to do an IRL network. Now, in the IRL network, each node, each character, each player has 4 import jacks and 1 output jack, okay? So you're going to be receiving a lot of information, and you're going to want to compress that so that you can get as much information out in, like, say, a fourth of the time, right? So you're receiving information like 4 times faster than you're putting it out, and you need to compress it in order to do that. And the main way to compress that information is through joining the BARD group. So if you join the group of players called the BARD group clan, you can compress that information into smaller, more memorable bytes through song. And so that compresses information and also makes it more memorable. Because one of the problems with the IRL network is the degradation of information as it goes from node to node. The oligarchic network, that information is pretty much a perfect copy from node to node, from server to server. But in the IRL network, it's not as reliable. But by compressing the information, like the BARD group clan does, you'll be able to, that information will be able to get further, faster, and more accurately, okay? There will also be a mesh network, wireless mesh network technology nodes that will work completely independently of the oligarchic networks. And so that's something else you're going to need to learn. As I mentioned, this simulation will teach you a lot of skills, and a lot of skills that you didn't get implanted in your memories from the character. Well, I don't know that you know this now because you're in the character all the way, but well, anyway, the memories that you have of anything that happened before January 1st of this year are implanted memories, and the skills that you have from that before time are not really skills that will carry you into the future. You have to kind of learn like all new skills in a way. Um, so anyway, but you're going to learn those skills. You're going to stay on mission, and when we get to the final in the November chapter, you know, we still have another chapter after that, right? It's almost like an epilogue, right? But to win this game as a character, you have to make it to December 31st at midnight. As a group, if we get to December 31st at midnight and the simulation becomes an anocracy, well, then the simulation just ends and game over. We lost and we didn't pass the final. But if your character gets it to December 31st at midnight and then it becomes January 1st, that means not only did you win the game, but the entire class, the entire group won the game. And then there's a 2-week epilogue, which is like a simulation of the first 2 weeks of 2027, and there will be cake. So you definitely want to make it there, okay? So again, I am your orientation guide. I'm here basically just to reassure you that, you know, even if you end up in the arrest group, even if your character ends up in a very dark place, you know, eventually the simulation will end. You know, if your character is suddenly unalived for whatever reason, then the simulation will end for you at that point. But I gotta tell you, the future is really nice. Okay, so yeah, so don't worry. You know, things are gonna be good. You know, at the end of the simulation, even within the simulation, things could get really good. If we do the game play just right, even within the simulation, things could be really good, especially in that epilogue where we all get cake. But the future is really nice. I mean, you know, I mean, it's not perfect. There are drawbacks. I mean, you know, it's really annoying that we have to get, you know, genetic upgrades every few months to stay ahead of the retroviruses. I mean, you know, there are things like that you got to deal with here in the future. But there are some really cool things that you're really going to like when you get your memories back. So again, stay on mission, understand the assignment, pass that final by building those systems in the next chapter, and we will have cake. See you in January. I think I might